Did ancient humans have Onlyfans? Let's start with something nobody wants to admit. The desire didn't start with a smartphone. It didn't start with the internet. It didn't even start with civilization. It started with you. The version of you that existed 200,000 years ago, standing barefoot on an African savanna, trying to survive long enough to pass your genes to the next generation. And that version of you had one very specific, very ancient, very human problem: the desire for connection, for intimacy, for access to someone your biology told you was rare, someone worth everything you had. That feeling didn't appear in 2016 when Onlyfans launched. That feeling is older than agriculture, older than writing, older than the wheel. So, when we ask, did ancient humans have Onlyfans? We're actually asking something much deeper. How old is human desire? And what have we always been willing to trade for it? The answer is going to make you look at yourself very differently. For 95% of human history, our ancestors lived in small, nomadic groups of 30 to 50 people. No cities, no markets, no abundance of anything. Every calorie had life or death weight attached to it, and inside that brutal, scarce world, human desire was born. Not as a luxury, as a biological instruction. Here's what most people completely miss. The desire for intimacy and connection wasn't a side effect of having too much free time. It was engineered by evolution as one of the most powerful motivational forces in the human brain. More powerful than hunger in certain contexts, more persistent than fear. Why? Because reproduction is the only thing evolution actually cares about. So the brain needed a reward system powerful enough to make humans pursue intimacy even when the cost was enormous, even when it meant depleting survival resources, even when it made no logical sense. That reward system is dopamine, and it was never designed to be satisfied easily. In a world of genuine scarcity, the triggers for that reward system were rare. When you found someone who displayed real signs of vitality and genetic fitness, your brain lit up like nothing else in your environment could trigger. That intensity was calibrated specifically for rarity, for a world where what you desired was genuinely hard to access. Now hold that thought. In 1908, a small limestone figurine was discovered in Willendorf, Austria, carved approximately 30,000 years ago during the height of the last ice age. Scientists called it the Venus of Willendorf. It has no face, no eyes, no mouth, no expression, but the body is carved with extraordinary, deliberate, obsessive attention, exaggerating specific physical proportions beyond anything that exists in the natural world. For decades, archaeologists called these fertility symbols, religious objects, but modern evolutionary anthropology tells a more uncomfortable story. These figurines were the world's first externalized representation of human desire. Portable, tradable, deliberately designed to trigger the brain's reward system more intensely than reality itself could. These figurines have been found across an enormous geographic range: Austria, Russia, France, Germany, with zero evidence of contact between the groups that made them. Different cultures, same object, because the desire driving their creation wasn't cultural, it was biological. The same brain, running the same ancient software, expressing the same need across 30,000 years of human history. That need didn't disappear, it evolved. In small tribal groups, access to high-value individuals was structurally limited. Of the 50 people in your world, only a fraction triggered your brain's strongest biological response, and those individuals were scarce almost by definition. So, what did ancient humans do? Exactly what you'd expect from a species wired to pursue this desire at almost any cost. They traded for it. Anthropologist Helen Fisher at Rutgers University has spent decades studying human mating behavior across cultures. Her research consistently shows that resource for intimacy exchange is not a modern invention. It is one of the oldest, most universal patterns in human social behavior, documented in hunter-gatherer societies on every continent, coded into our evolutionary history as deeply as any other survival behavior. High-value resources, prime cuts of meat, finely crafted tools, rare materials, were regularly exchanged for access, attention, and intimacy. The currency changed across history. The transaction never did. Now here's where it gets modern and uncomfortable. By 2023, Onlyfans had over 200 million registered users and had paid out $15 billion to creators. That is not a cult. That is not a cultural anomaly. That is not moral collapse. That is a 200,000-year-old biological drive meeting a piece of technology specifically engineered to exploit it at industrial scale. Your brain, the ancient part of it, cannot distinguish between a real, high-value individual in your physical environment and a high-definition simulation of one on a screen. It was never designed to make that distinction because that distinction didn't exist until 15 years ago. When your brain encounters signals, it reads as a high-value individual offering personalized attention. Direct eye contact, your name, exclusive access, the simulation of intimacy, the reward system fires. Dopamine releases. The ancient voice says exactly what it has always said. This is rare. This is valuable. Acquire it, whatever the cost. The platform didn't create that voice. It just learned how to speak directly to it. Neuroscientist Anna Lembke at Stanford describes this precisely. When a reward system calibrated for scarcity is suddenly exposed to unlimited, frictionless access to its triggers, it doesn't feel more satisfied. It dysregulates. Tolerance builds. The baseline shifts. What once felt extraordinary starts to feel ordinary, and the brain demands more intensity just to feel anything. The ancient hunter who traded his best meat for a carved limestone figurine understood something we've lost. The desire was real. The cost made it meaningful. The scarcity kept it human. We removed the scarcity. We kept the desire. So did ancient humans have Onlyfans? No. They had something far more honest. A world where desire was real, cost was real, and connection, when it happened, was real too. What we built is something different. We took the oldest motivational system in the human brain, stripped away every piece of friction that gave it meaning, and turned it into a subscription model. The desire was always there. Ancient and human and real. We just built a machine that learned how to sell it back to us.